The exploration of space will go ahead, whether we join in it or not, and it is one of the great adventures of all time. And no nation which expects to be the leader of other nations can expect to stay behind in the race for space. These are not my words. These are John F. Kennedy words in his 1962 "We chose to go to the moon" speech. Space science is not new. It started back with some ancient civilizations, which left some evidence on how greatly they were preoccupied with outer space and the mysteries it holds. One of these civilizations is the ancient Egyptians. They studied the night sky, taking measurements from the stars to accurately align their pyramids and sun temples with the Earth's 4 cardinal points. They discovered the heavens above and recorded Mars in the 2nd millennium BC, calling it Horus of the horizon, or Horus the Red. In our era, exactly in the last century, the world stood witness to the clash of many powers, on top of which being the American and Soviet, now Russian, which paved the way for some advances for humanity. Now we see private companies, such as SpaceX and Blue Origin, driving costs down for everyone in the space race. Let's dive into this and see what was the space race, and how private companies are launching a new space race. So if you are enjoying our videos, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for all future updates. Relations between the Soviet Union and the United States were driven by a complex interplay of ideological, political, and economic factors, which led to shifts between cautious cooperation and often bitter superpower rivalry over the years. After World War II, the competition between the United States and the Soviet Union for supremacy in spaceflight capability had its origins in order to create a missile-based nuclear arm in space. Immediately after the war, both of them were fighting over German rocket scientists. Despite their absence in the records, German rocket scientists had a lasting imprint on Soviet rocketry. The work of captured German scientists enabled the Soviet Union to rapidly catch up to and briefly surpass the United States in rocket technology at that time. Without German contributions, both the space race and the nuclear arms race would have looked vastly different. The space race started as a Cold War competition between them to develop aerospace capabilities, including artificial satellites, unmanned space probes, and human spaceflight. When the Soviets launched the world's first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1, in October 1957, it set off alarm bells in the Eisenhower administration and created intense fear and anxiety among the U.S. public that the Soviet Union had surpassed the technological achievements of the United States. Sputnik orbited the Earth and transmitted radio signals for 21 days before burning up in the Earth's atmosphere. Then they launched Sputnik 2 the following month in November, carrying a dog named Laika, to become one of the first animals in space. Unfortunately, Laika died within hours from overheating, possibly caused by a failure of the central R7 sustainer to separate from the payload. In response, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, was established in October 1958. Then, after 2 months, NASA took control of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, operated by the California Institute of Technology, forming NASA JPL. The Advanced Research Projects Agency, which took the lead in developing space technology for military purposes, was also created in the same year, 1958. NASA was aiming for winning the race to put the first man in space, but in April 1961, Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man to enter Earth's orbit in a single-pilot spacecraft called Vostok 1. However, the Americans were not far behind. In the same year in May, Alan Shepard became the first American in space, piloting a 15-minute suborbital flight. Then in February 1962, John Glenn became the first American to enter Earth's orbit. Early Soviet successes in the space race led U.S. President John F. Kennedy to announce the inauguration of the Apollo program, which pledged to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. Soviet achievements in space were a wake-up call to Americans convinced of their own scientific and technological superiority. The first steps by humans on another planetary body were taken by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on July 20, 1969. The astronauts also returned to Earth the first samples from another planetary body. Then, after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the International Space Station was created. It took 10 years and more than 30 missions to assemble. It is the result of unprecedented scientific and engineering collaboration among 5 space agencies representing 15 countries, including Russia. The space race between the USA and Russia started with a beep from the Sputnik satellite almost 60 years ago and ended with a handshake in space just 18 years later during a joint USSR-American docking mission. Now, the space environment is no longer the sole preserve of government agencies. Private companies have entered the exploration domain and are propelling the sector forward more vigorously and swiftly than would be the case if left to governments alone. It could be argued that a new space race has begun, in which private companies are competing against each other and against government organizations. But this time, it is driven by competition for customers rather than the urge to show dominance by being first to achieve a certain goal. We saw this month 2 competing billionaires launching successful trips to space in the race for commercial space travel. On Tuesday, Amazon and Blue Origin founder Jeff Bezos blasted off into space on the New Shepard spacecraft. Last week, Virgin Galactic's Richard Branson rocketed into space on his own aircraft. Both launches are complete, but the space race is not over. Blue Origin plans to launch 2 more passenger flights before the end of the year, but ticket prices have not been revealed. Flights aboard Virgin Galactic's spaceplane are believed to cost around $250,000. Both companies hope the market will support economies of scale and lower prices down the road. Moreover, SpaceX aims to launch the first orbital flight with Starship as early as this August, pending booster tests. Musk wants to use Starship vehicles to help send astronauts to Mars and has said the spacecraft could be fully up and running by 2023 if testing goes well. The original space race resulted from the ideas and skills of visionary theoretician engineers, including Robert H. Goddard, Wernher von Braun, Konstantin E. Tsiolkovsky, and many others. Is it too far a stretch to think that the second space race is propelled by a new generation of entrepreneurs, including Bezos, Branson, and Musk? What do you think? If this is the new race, where will it take us? Let's discuss it down below. Thanks for watching.